we've been hinting at this if you've been reading some of our emails announcing this theme launch that we may have a special guest with us today. And well, we do. We actually have Abby Johnson with us here right now, and we're going to have a quick little chat with her. Abby Johnson, it's so good to have you with us today. Welcome back, I guess, to the National March for Life in Canada.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm just so excited to be back and always excited to be in Canada. You guys definitely have a fight up there on your hands, and I'm just excited to be a part of it with you.
And we can't wait to have you back in our nation's capital in May. So let's just cut to the chase. The folks watching this theme launch, we just watched the trailer to your latest film, Unthinkable. So what can you tell us about this latest project of yours? What's it about? And the reason why we're showing it is because we will be doing a Canadian premiere of this film just a few days, just the day before the National March for Life on May the 8th. So you're going to be there in person. So what can you tell us about this film?
Yeah, so I wanted to do it for a while because when I left the abortion industry, a lot of people in the abortion movement said, well, okay, Abby Johnson obviously was at a bad clinic, right? And so this was just a one-off experience. This was her experience, but no other abortion clinic was like hers, right? And so I said, okay, well, let's put that to the test. So I started a ministry back in 2012 called And Then There Were None. And we have now helped almost 700 abortion clinic workers leave the abortion industry, and that's just in the United States. And the goal is to really help them come into a saving relationship with Jesus Christ. And so we've been helping these workers do that now, almost 700 of them. And what really struck me, though, was that all of our stories were so similar. What I realized was that my experience was not unique. My experience was part of a pervasive, part of a systemic problem that is happening all over the country and what we believe is happening all over the world. And so, what we've done is we have gathered dozens and dozens of these former abortion clinic workers. We've gathered them together just to really talk about these issues. What is happening inside of these abortion facilities? Is it systemic? Is this a problem that's happening everywhere? Or was my experience truly just a one-off sort of thing? And I think what people are going to find really interesting is that, what people think is happening. I think, what a lot of pro-lifers are going to find is they've kind of had this idea of, what they think is going on inside of the abortion industry, but now they're going to hear it kind of, that saying from the horse's mouth, right? They're going to hear it from these workers, some of them that were there for 17 years, some of them there only a few months, but this kind of varied experience, um, you know, women being trafficked through these abortion clinics, unsterilized instruments, babies being born alive and drowned, suffocated, necks broken, um, women being being left to die from blood loss, hemorrhaging, negligence, malpractice. These are things that the abortion industry, they don't want to get out to the public. And that's why I've said for a long time, the abortion industry workers who leave, they really are the Achilles heel of the abortion industry because we know all their dirty laundry, right? We know all of the secrets that they don't want to be exposed. And that's really what Unthinkable is doing. And so I think it's going to be eye-opening for the pro-life movement, but also really a wake-up call to those who support abortion. Is this actually what you support? Is this what you are championing? And the great news, too, the great news for Canada is that we are now going global at And Then There Were None. And so we are going to be opening up chapters of And Then There Were None in Canada, in Spain, in Africa, all over the world, because there are abortion workers who want to have that same experience of redemption and conversion all over the world. And we're going to be there to serve them and help them.
I'm so excited to watch Unthinkable, in part just because of your explanation right now, but also because I remember when you came to the National March for Life in 2019, it was also for the Canadian premiere of Unplanned. And I remember walking into that theater just a couple of days before the march and being absolutely blown away. So I'm really excited to learn even more about the abortion industry through Unthinkable. And speaking of your 2019 appearance at our National March for Life, do you have any memories from that occasion? And how do you feel about coming back to Canada?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I speak everywhere. I speak a lot. I do a lot of speaking, and I have to say, most events I do are uh, uh, not things that really kind of stick out on my mind. But that event was particularly memorable for me because I was 38 weeks pregnant with my last son, Fulton, and my doctor was kind of on standby in case I went into labor. He'd already found a hospital close by that I could go to in Ottawa because he just thought you're crazy for doing this event so close to your due date. But I wanted to do it, and it was such a great experience to be there with all of you and to be fighting for life and to be doing that with this child in my womb. And it's always such a special experience to be pregnant and to be talking about these vulnerable children in the womb while you're carrying a child in the womb. It's really just such a profound, beautiful experience. And um, it's, being at a rally, a march like that, it's really just electric, right? And it reminds you of why you're doing what you're doing because it can feel very lonely. And particularly, I think, in places like Canada, where you feel like, am I alone? Am I the only pro-lifer here? Right. Um, but it reminds you that you're not alone. There are tens of thousands of people surrounding you there at that March for Life, right? And you think, oh my gosh, this is the shot in the arm that I needed. I'm not alone. There are many others like me that are there surrounding me and others at home that are watching. And you think we're doing this together. We are fighting for the right thing. But the truth is that even if you are standing alone, you are doing the right thing still. And really, we're never alone because we have the true victor. We have Jesus Christ on our side.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I do remember you, Abby, being there, like ready to pop, and I just thought to myself, this woman is crazy for doing this. But you were such a trooper. You were such a trooper. I remember escorting you to like from one event to another event. I think you did maybe 3 or 4 events throughout that week. And I just thought, man, this is, you're right. What a powerful witness. Obviously, the words you were saying, the things you were speaking, and your testimony was very powerful and life-changing for people to hear. But then just your physical presence, like your body was a witness to the world about the sacredness of life. And I think that's just absolutely beautiful. And we can't wait to have you back in Ottawa again. Abby, we just launched our theme for this year, which is I Will Never Forget You. It's based in sacred scripture. It's something that we often turn to scripture when it comes to coming up with themes for the March for Life. We just launched the promotional video. What do you think of when you hear the words "I will never forget you"? How does this theme speak to you personally?
So, I am just hearing this theme too. So I didn't get the theme ahead of time or anything like that. So I'm just hearing this theme too. And I have to say, it so deeply resonates with me. I was 8 years old when I came to know the Lord. And I remember that day. I remember, sitting in church and stepping out of the pew. My parents didn't even know I was doing that. But I remember having that encounter with the Lord. And I remember stepping out of the pew and going up to the front and talking to the pastor. And it was a beautiful moment. I remember that encounter with God very clearly. And I grew up serving the Lord and knowing him. And, then I got into college and I walked away from my faith for a period of years. But when you are a child of God, you are not forgotten by him. And a lot of times, people think about the Lord, and I think they think about him as kind of um, this mild-mannered kind of lamb, right? And that is true of God. But when I think of the Lord, I think of him as this mighty, fierce lion who came roaring back into my life after I'd walked away from him for so long, because he had not forgotten me. Even though I had tried to step away, even though I had tried to walk away, even though I had denied him, even though I was working in an abortion facility for 8 years, he had not left me. He had not forgotten me. And that moment that I allowed my heart to soften, he came fighting for me. He came right back. And that's how he's always been in my life. He fights for me. And even though I was fighting with him, he was fighting for me. And so that is the goodness of God. And I think many times, there are women that we are fighting for in this movement, and the children in their womb we are fighting for, and God has not forgotten them. And sometimes, women in crisis pregnancies, they probably feel many times overwhelmed and they feel forgotten, but God has not forgotten them. He has not left them. In fact, he loves them so much that he has given them this beautiful gift of a child. And that just shows how much he loves them. And so that's a reminder that he has not forgotten them. And so I think it's just such a beautiful theme. I think, and even even the elderly. I think about, my grandparents. All of my grandparents have passed now, but I think as they were, I think about them as they were aging. And there had to be times when they felt alone, when they saw people around them, their friends, dying and passing away. And even, my grandmothers, as their spouses passed. And that I don't know that sort of sorrow. And there had to be times where they felt alone, but they were not forgotten. God had not forgotten them. And he was with them until the end of their lives. And what an honor it is for us as their children and their grandchildren to care for them in their final years. And so it's a reminder to us as well, as their family, that we do not forget them, that we are there for them as well as the Lord is there for them. And so I think it's just the perfect theme. I want to contact the march organizers here in the U.S. I want that to be our theme for the march in the U.S. next year, because I think it's just it is perfection. It is how the Lord wants us to remember each other, that we're not forgotten, and he has not forgotten us.
Your words also make me think of the parliamentarians and even the counter protesters. And I hope that the Lord is pursuing them as intently as he pursued you. And I think it's a reminder to all of us that while we're very much a movement about saving lives, we're also very much a movement about saving souls as well. And speaking of, At the Rose Dinner, you're going to be speaking alongside Sean Carney of 40 Days for Life. So those who maybe have forgotten that part of your story, can you briefly explain the significance of your relationship with Sean and his wife?
Yeah, so Sean and I kind of had parallel lives, I guess, just on the opposite sides of the fence of life, right? So um, Sean and I both started volunteering at our, respective organizations at kind of the same time. So he started volunteering at the Coalition for Life at pretty much the same time I started volunteering at Planned Parenthood. And he started volunteering because his girlfriend at the time, who's now his wife, Mary Lisa, very much encouraged him that, if he wanted to date her, his Saturday morning activity needed to be to go pray on the sidewalk. And so he wanted to date her. So he knew he needed to do that. And like many of us, when you start going to the sidewalk and you start seeing these women going into the facilities and you see them come out, you see that they are changed. Their faces are changed. Their body language has changed. You see that their soul has changed. Something inside of them, their spirit is different. And that desire to keep them whole, to keep their spirit and their soul intact, and to not have it be ripped apart in the abortion industry, that desire really compels you to continue to go over and over again. And that's what happened to Sean. And so he continued to go, not just for Mary Lisa, but also he was compelled by God to go. And so as I started rising up through the ranks at Planned Parenthood, he started rising up through the ranks at the Coalition for Life. And so we knew each other and we had some, I would say, feisty conversations on the sidewalk. I think a lot of people think that, through that fence, and there was physically a big iron fence that was between us. I think a lot of times people think it was all just kind of rainbows and giggles through that fence, but that's not true. I mean, Sean and I we both have strong personalities, and we did kind of spar occasionally through that fence, but that was truly what I think I needed. I think we both needed that to sharpen each other, and I needed that sort of confrontation to really help me think about what is it that I'm doing here, and to really confront some of the faulty ideas that I had in my mind. And Sean was able to do that for me. And so when I left Planned Parenthood, it was their office. It was the Coalition for Life. It was their office that I went to for help. And because Sean and I and others on the sidewalk, we had this relationship for years, for many years. It was a very easy friendship to develop. And Sean and I have been friends now for over 20 years. We've known each other for over 20 years. And I'm a little bit older than him, and he will remind everyone of that when we're on stage together. And so we have just a very fun, special relationship. When my husband and I entered the Catholic Church together in 2012, Sean was actually my husband's sponsor into the church. And Heather Gardner, who was another sidewalk counselor on the sidewalk, she was my sponsor into the church. So those relationships that I developed with people on the sidewalk continue to live on in my life now. Heather is the godmother to two of our children, and still, one of our dearest friends, and Sean as well. So Those relationships do matter. And, sometimes I think we feel like, does the work that we do, does it matter? Is this even making a difference? And I can say unequivocally, yes, it does matter. I've seen it matter in my life and the lives of many others who have worked in the abortion industry and are now free.
And it's also making a difference in Canada. We received terrific news last week that a private abortion facility in New Brunswick was finally shutting its doors. And that was in part due to political efforts. Their premier, Blaine Higgs, he stood strong against a lot of pressures from the abortion lobby, from the federal government to fund abortions at private facilities. He refused to do that. And so because of funding, the clinic finally shut its doors. But also in the fall, there was a 40 Days for Life campaign that was actually led by a former Campaign Life Coalition intern. And now we see the clinic, after so many years, is finally closing. And so prayer really does work. And I'm really excited to hear that conversation between you and Sean. So thank you very much for joining us for this theme announcement, Abby, and I can't wait to see you in May in Ottawa.
I am so excited. It is going to be an awesome time. And also I'm really excited about the protesters that are going to show up, because it gives us a time to pray, and a time to pray for those who oppose us. And I think about all the times that I showed up as a protester to events like this one. And we have to believe that while they're there, they are hearing truth. And that is such a beautiful thing. And so it gives us an opportunity to pray directly for them. And so we welcome them to come. And I just hope that anyone who is hearing this and even thinking about coming, please do. Please do make the sacrifice and come. It really does make a difference. And it will give you the encouragement that you need to keep going.
Well, there you have it, folks. Abby Johnson wants you to come to the National March for Life, so you can't say no now. Abby, thank you so much for joining us today, like Josie mentioned, and we can't wait to see you in our nation's capital in just a few months. Take care and God bless.
Yeah.
65% of women committing abortions identify themselves as either Protestant or Catholic. That's 650,000 abortions each year obtained by Christians in the United States. Church, we have work to do. The fight to make abortion unthinkable is ours. I've been working on a feature-length documentary called Unthinkable that exposes the darkest depths of the abortion industry. This fall, we plan to release this film that will completely uncover the depravity of every square inch of the abortion business, reveal every dirty secret, like the secrets within this Planned Parenthood facility behind me, and appeal to the fierce mercy of God for these crimes against him and humanity.
Time is money in the abortion industry. We did not want a woman on the table longer than 5 minutes. Right?
We took videos at the beginning of clinic, and we would play music, and the doctor would come in and dance to the Rocky theme. Like, we're gonna get this done today.
Myra's done, so you just need. Margaret Sanger, who was the founder of Planned Parenthood, to eliminate the African American population through widespread access to abortion and contraception.
That is literally the #1 killer into the Black race. It was just like a genocide.
There's so many times that people say, well, Abby, that was just your experience at your one clinic. And I thought, well, okay, maybe, but why don't we get a whole bunch of us together and see if that's really true?
So she called that night to the answering service that she was bleeding, but the doctor never answered. She ended up dying.
The woman asked, is it killing? And the clinic director, she said, oh, if you think killing a fly is killing, everything about it is dehumanizing.
We had one woman that she tried to flush her own baby down the toilet and its head got stuck.
and we're ready to share everything we were told would be too much for public audiences. The truth is never too much.
Clamp the head to make it come out. And you'll see all the insides gush out.
You know, is there anything that you look back on that you say, I don't know that was right, looking back on it now?
The protocol in counseling is if there is a fetus born alive in that building, we are to administer CPR. That was untrue because I've witnessed a fetus being born alive in that building.
What do they do?
Drown in the toilet.
This is not new. This has been going on for thousands of years. We just call it something different.
We call it something different. And again, you know, it's not that a person is worshiping the devil necessarily when they're promoting abortion. But they don't have to be thinking of him, and he doesn't care whether or not they're thinking of him. A sacrifice, think of what a sacrifice is. I'm going to give something up in order to get something back.
This is not a political issue. This is a moral issue. We're trying to change the mindset of a culture. We're trying to change people's hearts. And one of the things I admire about Jesus is he was the perfect balance of grace and truth. And if the church cannot bridge that gap, we will never change the hearts and the minds of a culture when it comes to the issue of abortion.